Forest podcast is supported by viewers, listeners, and businesses just like you. Looking for the best pool supplies? Look no further than Dohany's Pool Supplies. With a history dating back to 1967, this family-owned business offers everything families need to keep their pools clean and sparkling, from chemicals to equipment. Plus, customers enjoy free shipping on all orders. Visit Dohany's Pool Supplies today at doheny.com, DOHENY.com, to learn more. Broker Michelle Parno has lived and worked in Lake Forest for over 2 decades. Michelle's lending experience, when combined with her real estate expertise, makes her an invaluable asset to her clients as they navigate their home buying or selling process. Call Michelle now at 847-528-8721, 847-528-8721. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Laracy & Company CPAs, founded in 2010 by Lake Forest's own Brian Laracy, specializes in tax preparation and bookkeeping services. Earning the People Love Us on Yelp award, their process is straightforward. Just upload, review, and file. For a free quote, visit LaracyCPA.com now. That's LARISEYCPA.com. I'm excited to share with you something special from our Lake Forest community, the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa, located at 775 North Bank Lane in Lake Forest near Wisconsin Avenue. This just isn't any spa. They offer an amazing blend of traditional spa services plus the added benefit of medical procedures and treatments. In a relaxing and luxurious spa environment, you can enjoy a range of cosmetic and aesthetic treatments. These are all performed under the supervision of top medical professionals. The Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa provides skin care, facial rejuvenation, body contouring, laser hair removal, Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and much more. What's great is that each treatment is tailored not just to enhance your appearance, but also to address specific skin concerns and to promote overall well-being. So if you're looking to pamper yourself and take your beauty routine to the next level, give the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa a call at 224-768-8028 or visit them at their location on North Bank Lane. It's an experience your skin will thank you for. Anthony Vega.
Pete, how are you?
K-A-S-A.
Just living the dream. Glad to be back with all of you and my friends at the Lake Forest podcast.
Oh, yeah. Joe will be stepping in shortly. Just a bunch of guys at the bar sitting down talking about things.
You got it. Got my coffee here.
I hear you. Who knows? Maybe a little Bailey's. I don't know. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. So, Anthony,
that's right.
While we're waiting for Joe to step up to the plate here, how are things being a little bit more tenured? Do you know where all the washrooms are now?
Luckily I knew that coming in since I've been in government for a few years before that. But you know what? Things are, we had a really busy first 12 months. And so now we're in the period where we're seeing the fruits of labor, of the planning labor of the first 12 months. So I'm super excited, actually. We're rolling out new equipment, so hopefully it'll make things smoother for the voters. We're being more efficient.
Hold on now. That's not going to happen. Anything new? It's not good. Why you set yourself up for failure, Anthony?
It's you're going to have a positive outlook on it, right? And then you calibrate. And luckily, I'm excited because we're using the primary to really iron out the wrinkles in anticipation of November, because November is where we're going to have a higher turnout. So we're pressure testing. Joe, how's it going?
Good morning, Mr. Clerk. I apologize.
You're fine.
I was waiting in the long line to vote this morning, and I got delayed here.
So for everybody that just tripped over and fell into this podcast, Anthony Vega, Clerk of Lake County, could you give us a little background on yourself? Let people know what you're about, where you came from. I'll start you off with the sheriff's office. How did you go from being the sheriff's office to clerk?
Yeah, so I was chief of staff at the sheriff's office for 3 years. Did a lot of important work there in terms of intergovernmental relations, some legislation, but mainly a lot of grant work and community work. Something that I think we help position the sheriff's office to be more community centric, and something that I'm really really proud of. And then, I decided to run for clerk because I thought that, I could do a really good job of voting something that is very important to me. I'm first generation. My parents are immigrants. I've been voting since I was, I have not missed one election. Um, and in fact, in high school, I was a high school election judge when I was a junior in high school.
What high
And
school?
so
What high school? What high school?
Curie High School in Chicago. I grew up in
Curie
Chicago, Curie High School in
Lane
Chicago.
Tech kicked your ass every
Yes.
time.
Yeah, late.
And Niles North kicked Lane Texas in the 92 playoffs, but we won't go
Niles North.
there.
Continue, Anthony. We digress.
No, no, it's fine. And so I've always been involved, so election judge, even since high school, that's where I got the bug to go into public service. I always thought I was going to be working for an elected official, a legislator. I never thought that I was going to be an elected official. That was not even part of the plan. It was just I thought that, Lake County deserved better. And so I was really frustrated, and I was determined to help the clerk candidate, whoever it may have been. And then it was, well, if nobody's stepping up, why shouldn't I? And so I did. And so now here we are, 14 plus months later.
Let's go to those first couple months there, Anthony. What happened?
Oh my God, the first couple months was me drinking out of a fire hose. Allegedly, I got to do the button now. Allegedly, I saw the button
Oh,
in
you
the
know the
last
button? All
episode.
right, here.
Yeah, allegedly,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was drinking out of a fire hose. Um, but I came on immediately, came on literally as soon as I raised my right hand, the recorder of deeds office merged into the clerk's office. So immediately the size of the office grew and the functions of the office grew. Um, we were in the middle of planning the municipal elections, which created, some concern in Lake Forest because of a polling site with one of the great polling sites in Lake Forest, and that's how we met. Was through through
Yeah,
through
I
that.
dressed you very professionally.
Yes.
Anthony Vega sucks, man.
Which, hey, I'm a
Anthony
public servant.
Vega.
Yeah, yeah. But that started that dialogue, which I
Yeah,
think,
yeah, yeah.
I think it's important for elected officials to have those lines of communication because, you know, uh, many people will say a lot of different things. Um, and then for, I think, some elected officials take that very personally. You can't. We're in public service, and so talk it out. Talk
Yeah,
it
yeah.
out. Whether in a podcast or in a bar or in a coffee shop.
Okay, well, here, and Joe, you can pitch in too. Look, man, this is me saying it, not you. Here, allegedly, you just came in the office, you're taking over for another staff. You don't know what's going on, even though you've been in the building a while. They dumped all this crap on you, didn't tell you anything, and you had to figure out locations for what, 108 different polling places. And then one
Yeah.
of the changes was we had Forest voters had to go to Vernon Hills. Joe, is that what happened?
Yeah, so Christ Church, which is a polling place for several precincts on the west side of Lake Forest, it just so happened that the municipal election last year was right up against Easter, and Christ Church said, "Hey, we need the building for Easter to prepare for Easter." And so we're going to have to politely decline. And so you had to scramble. And some people were voting in Vernon Hills. Some people were voting in Knollwood, I believe.
Mhm.
And so you really did have to do a fire drill there. So thankfully you had the fire hose to drink out of. But I think it worked out. I mean, Christ Church certainly put up signs and stuff to let people know. And you have made changes to polling places again, which we can talk about. But Christ Church is back as a
Yes.
polling place because I live in one of the precincts that votes at Christ Church, and I got my notice from you that said my
Mhm.
polling place is Christ Church. So that's where I will be voting on March 19th.
That's right.
And then in the last Lake Forest City Council meeting, Margaret Boyer's her name, goes by Biddy.
Biddy
Boyer.
Boyer,
Yeah.
the city
Okay.
clerk of Lake Forest.
Hours, but Jason has asked me to keep it brief, and so I will. As you can see, early voting started here today, and it's one of the first of two election seasons that we'll experience here at City Hall. This first one being the general primary election, which is for Tuesday, March 19th, and then the second will be the last 2 weeks in October with the general election, November 5. Like I said, early voting started here today. It goes Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, Saturdays 9 to 2, and closed on Saturdays. There is an official ballot drop box provided by the county during early voting hours for you to drop your vote by mail ballots into, or you can just place them in the U.S. mail. Really importantly, a number of Lake Forest registered voters received correspondence from the Lake County Clerk, Anthony Vega, letting you know that your election day site has changed. And what that is from is they actually did a tremendous amount of work consolidating 108 election day polling sites down to 91. And so that's why there's been a change, which brings me to my last comment of City Hall does not serve as a polling site on election day. If you'd like to check your polling location for election day, you can actually log on to lakevoterpower.info, or you can contact the Lake County Clerk's office at 377-2410. This information can be found on the city's website under recent stories and on the clerk's page. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to talk about elections all day if you want.
Are there any questions for Biddy?
No. Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Great person. I really have a huge respect for her.
Absolutely.
Yeah, she gave a report at the beginning of the meeting and said, hey, there's been a number, the Clerk Vega has consolidated polling places, so I urge everyone to go to the clerk's website to make sure you know where your polling place is. So why don't you talk about what you did and how it's going to look for us on March 19th with the primary.
Yeah, that's a really good segue. So we spent post 2023 municipal elections pretty much all of summer evaluating all of our current polling locations. And so we did do some consolidation, usually in areas where, for example, I had two polling sites right across the street from one another and only two precincts were assigned to in each location, which doesn't really make sense when I still have to fully staff each site. And usually two precincts, you have maybe 100 voters come through each. And so we looked at those instances and we usually consolidated from 2 to 1, and we had, assigned 4, because then that also alleviates a lot of the election judge staffing concerns that a lot of clerk's offices have. The new equipment we're rolling out, actually, we're actually in a really good spot because now we'll need less judges, but I'm also now able to properly staff the polling sites. And so there's a lot of different considerations. And so there were some shifts in Lake Forest, but I think overall it will improve the flow of things on election day. And let's also remember that more and more, I think probably this primary and probably in November, more than 50% of voters that come out to vote will have voted before election day.
Yeah, that seems to be a growing trend, right? Across the whole country is either voting early, early voting has already started at Lake Forest City Hall and all of your other early voting locations around the county. Vote by mail. My son's away at college. He's already gotten his mail ballot, as have my in-laws in Florida, who are snowbirds. So they're all squared away. Though I must tell you, when you do it online, and maybe I know you've taken on a lot of stuff and you inherited a website and everything. I must tell you, the vote by mail application is not very easy to fill out on an iPhone. So we actually scrambled and grabbed a laptop to do it because it was not very mobile friendly. And like I said, I know you inherited this setup, but something to think about going forward, especially if we're trying to get younger voters participating is try and make some of the website more mobile friendly. But
I vouch for the mail-in. I did it the last time, and that was a breeze.
I read that the Champaign County clerk has made it where every polling place in Champaign County on election day, any voter in Champaign County can vote at any polling place. So it avoids all that confusion of, well, this place I go here, or that place I go there. Any thought to doing that here?
So Champaign, DuPage, and I believe now Will County is testing a model, like a hybrid model of that. It's certainly a thought. With the new equipment, we have that ability to pivot to that type of model. Because now when you go vote, either early voting or on election day, your ballot is actually printed right there in front of you as you're being checked in. So that gives us a lot of added flexibility. My concern right now is I want to roll out this equipment, iron out any of the wrinkles, and then make the determination whether we go to that vote center model. I do think it has a lot of merit. Again, you eliminate voter confusion as to where I'm supposed to be voting on election day, just been a shift. It's more convenient to the voter if they have work, school, what have you. But right now, I want to make sure that we roll it. If we're going to do that, we're going to do it. I'm all about being intentional, and so let's roll out the equipment first, iron out the wrinkles, and then make the determination to see, are we ready yet?
So talking about wrinkles,
Yes.
I had a friend text me yesterday.
Okay.
That he voted early at Lake Forest City Hall, and it took 4 tries for the machine to read his signature. Finally did, because he was who he was. But he said, look, that signature is probably, 30 years old, and I don't, I've aged. And so he said, this is going to really jam things up if everybody's got to go through 4 signature tries, particularly with a lot of older voters. Their handwriting is not the same as when they registered to vote many years ago.
But I think in the future, I think, your friend will have a better experience, because now what we're also able to do is that signature that's accepted will be uploaded to their voter profile. So now we have their most updated signature, because you're right. We have a lot of great people that have been registered for 30 plus years, and their 30-year-old signature is still on file. But they're not the same person, right? They've gotten a little bit older, maybe a little bit more, grayer, maybe a couple, they may have some arthritis, things change, signatures change. And so this system does allow us to kind of update the signature, so that we have that historical record. So it's easier moving forward.
I'm chomping at the bit here. Anthony, you're one of my favorite Dems, right?
Am I?
Yeah, you are. Holly, all you guys love.
I was going to say it's a duel between Anthony and Holly, I think,
and look,
and Leon Rockingham.
Yeah,
Leon is good too.
All right. Look, I like good people. Okay, whatever they are. All right. So we're talking at the bar here, and I don't want to ruffle anybody's feathers here, but this signature thing. Why can't I just put my driver's license in, scan the back of it, know who I am? Get away from politics. What is just the reasoning behind it? I know you didn't do it, but I'm just trying to couple things I'm trying to understand. Okay.
Sure.
The far right, far left, center, if this, maybe it's not a political issue. What is the technological issue that we just can't put our license in there?
So I always have to preface this with, this is what the law mandates me to do, is to verify identity with signature. I will preface it that way.
Okay.
To get to an ID requirement that requires a state change. But you were under 21 at one point, so was Joe, so was I.
Yeah.
Can we honestly say how many of us had maybe a fake ID when we were under 21?
I never did, Your Honor.
Well, okay. Now hold on, Anthony. Okay.
All right.
All right, Vince. So here we go. I am Richard Nixon. That's my signature. Okay. I can write any signature in there that I want. if we're going to play the risk, I know you didn't make the law. I'm just trying to understand it. Like, if you can do a fake signature, it's a lot easier to do a fake signature than get to a fake ID. Because I believe a fake ID is that a misdemeanor or felony? I don't even know. But that's a worse thing to do than a fake signature. So I'm like, what was the thinking behind it? Here's what I've heard. I've heard that people don't have money, can't get an ID or something. Like, what was the reason?
You don't own a car, you don't have a driver's license.
But you get a state ID.
And so I think back in the day, on this, I don't know how long that part of the law goes back, but it was much harder for people in the last 10, 15 years to actually get a photo ID, whether it's a driver's license or even a state ID. I think now the legislature has made it easier for different types of people to get ID. I know in other parts, for example, let's take Georgia, right?
Yeah.
You had they consolidated a lot of the DMVs and Secretary of State offices, so now people had to travel a lot farther, in some cases more than an hour to get a photo ID. Well, if they don't have a car, or they can take day off, Monday through Friday off to, from work to travel, they're not getting an ID. So from
Hold on,
my
Anthony.
perspective.
I'm on a
Okay.
roll, Anthony. I know you're the
You're on
guest,
a
but I'm on a roll. What is this thing that you can verify your identity online with the government? Like, if you want to do something with the IRS, there's this thing that you go.
ID me, I think it's called.
Yeah. Why is that? Like, I can validate myself with the IRS that way, but I can't do it, to get a identification, or is that something entirely different?
So I would argue that's different because, and I just went, because it's tax season. I
Yeah.
went on the IRS website and I did the ID me. Um, that relies on you entering like your email and your cell phone and you getting a code to validate it. It doesn't have to be me, Anthony Vega, getting all that information to validate it. So I think that's a little bit different. But I do think, as it relates to the current law, is there a better way to validate a person's identity at the polls, even with the signature? I don't know if people know this, but poll watchers, other judges, even voters themselves can challenge a person's signature or identity. Like, hey, that's not Pete.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember his name, but that's not Pete, and you're voting in front of me. So that there could be a challenge, and there's a process in which to verify identity. But that's kind of where I'm at right now with
Yeah,
the
you're
law.
following. I get it, Anthony.
Yeah.
You're following the law,
Yeah.
but look, we're at the bar and people are asking because like, if we want to vote for the caucus here in Lake Forest, you got to show an ID, and I'm just like, if I was gonna, I like to spearhead things, Anthony. I like
Sure.
to improve things. What would I have to do? Would I have to go to Congressman Schneider? Like, who would be the person to go to, Joe
Probably a
Weiss?
state legislative issue, I'm guessing, right?
State,
Yeah.
okay. So that'd be my buddy Julie Morrison.
That would be your legislative friends. Yes, absolutely.
I'm
Bob Morgan.
I'm SOL. I'm SOL on that one. Joe, you're gonna have to push that one. Okay.
Well, I mean, I think, Anthony, yes, you do follow the law, and I appreciate that. I do. There is, you're the clerk of one of the largest counties in the state. And so I think, if there's something you feel, not to put you on the spot here, but if there's something you feel should be changed or done, I mean, you don't actually pass the law in Springfield, but I think a lot of the legislators would listen to a county clerk from a county the size of Lake County and probably get together with other county clerks as a group and say, hey, these are some things we'd like to look at.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because there's our association, our clerk association does meet to discuss a variety of different bills that have been proposed, and either we push them collectively, and in some instances we push for them individually as individual clerks because we believe in our interest. That being said, even under the current law, when you're going into a polling site, we can't ask you for your photo ID, right? But if you offer it, that's a whole different story, because then it's the voter willingly giving that ID over, and it may speed up your process at check-in.
Anthony, those election judges, I don't think they're trained that way, because when you pull out that ID, it's like kryptonite.
You know what? That what I just said about the ID, and if the voter offers it, they can take it. That's been hammered through our different
Okay.
training sessions for the last few months. That
Okay.
being said, doesn't mean
Yeah.
it usually takes a couple training, for it
I
to
hear you.
finally set. But it's definitely an interesting topic.
Okay.
It's like, is there a better
So-
way?
So back to what happened yesterday with my friend at City Hall.
Mhm.
Let's say he'd kept signing, and it's like, hey, I don't know why the machine doesn't work. Here's my driver's license. I am so-and-so. Look, what would happen in that case?
So, one, the judges make the determination if the signature matches. But actually, I was at Avon Township on Monday, the first day of early voting, where again, person registered 40 years ago, different person, the signature, obviously it's not the same anymore. And so he ended up producing, and there was a question from the judges: is this this is not matching, but we believe it's him. So the individual again provided the ID, photo ID, address matched on file with the voter record. And even though there was a change in his current signature, you were still able to see some of the same patterns as actually on the signature in the driver's license, that gave the judges enough information to say, yes, even though maybe the quality of the signature doesn't match what we have on his 30-year-old record, this is him. He was able to produce his physical ID to say, yes, I am, Anthony Vega, residing at this address. And so that was sufficient. That met the threshold of, okay, now let's proceed.
You have to be a handwriting expert, I guess. And
But do you think, are we going to see longer voting time because of this process?
Not necessarily. I don't think, this is on the flip side. Since 2020, a lot of the signatures on file now, whether it's new registrants or people who updated their registration at the Secretary of State's office, the DMV, are digital. Over nearly 2/3 are digital since 2020. So I think this is a period of time where we're going to be updating a lot of the signatures for the people that, again, have been registered for 30 plus years. They've lived at the same house for 30 plus years. So there's been no update to their signature. And so I don't foresee that, this will result in longer wait times long term. I think in the short term, this is the part of the implementation where we're getting everything to set, for example. But in the long run, I think it will be shorter.
Joe and Anthony, can we set the expectations for people now? Because look, if you do the mail in, okay, that's you walk up, you drop the thing in a box.
You hope the post office doesn't lose it.
Well, what?
You do drop boxes though.
Great, Mr. Politician here just insulted all the postal workers. Way to go, buddy.
I used to work in the Thompson Center, and there was a post office on the ground floor that we would see the back of going out the side entrance. And
okay, anywho, okay. So
I'm sure all the Lake County mail carriers are good people.
Oh yeah, see, that's what he does. Okay, great.
He's a pro.
Now the Gazette won't pick you up. All right.
Thompson Center post office, though. Ooh.
He even has a lapel pin.
I know, doesn't he?
Right, man.
He's ready.
He's a Republican suit is what he is. Anyways, if setting expectations, so you go in there to City Hall, but on the day of whatever election day is, it's not City Hall in Lake Forest, it's over at Gorton Center, I believe.
For you.
But for yeah, depending on the war, because I'm an East Sider, I'm not a West Sider like
I voted Christchurch.
West Side, no offense, but the West Side is sort of like Curie, no offense, Anthony.
None taken.
Okay, great. So is it all new machines? Because I remember going in and you would have like those little blinder things. They print out the things and you fill out the circles like in Iowa test score to get into lane tech, which I did. Yeah, what are the different machines? What are we going to see? It's different everywhere,
So
I'm guessing.
So it's so you're going to walk in during early voting or on election day. You're going to see that it's a different type of before it was like a computer, a tablet that was folded out. Now this is essentially an iPad, and so you'll see a couple of a receipt printer. You'll see a full size printer like you may have at home, but these have been configured specifically for ballot
Is there
printing.
a YouTube I could put up here, Anthony, that you guys have?
Not yet. We
Okay.
will. We're working on all of that as
Okay,
well.
got it.
But the biggest change for voters is instead of signing on that little receipt printer, the
Yeah, yeah.
receipt that would print out, you're signing on the tablet. So you're signing on the screen, and that gives the judges a side-by-side comparison of the signature you just signed and the signature on file, which is how we verify your identity. At that point, once you're processed, your ballot, your full-size ballot, will print right then and there. Before, we would have to spend 6 weeks preparing pre-printed ballots for election day sites. Now we cut that, and I think I mentioned this last time I was here. I have to keep all voting records, all voting material, voted, used, and unused ballots for 22 months after the election. And so for November of 2022, that was over 300,000 ballots that was prepared for election day, even though 300,000 ballots were not cast on election day in November of 2022. But I still have to keep it, and so this kind of right sizes our footprint in a lot of different ways. It is more efficient. And we're trying to remove the human error component from the administration side of things, because our judges would have to juggle a lot of different pieces of paper. And if they're filed wrong and there's a recount, discovery recount, or a question as to the process for this particular voter, then we'd have to look and sift through everything from that site until we find it. And so this gives us that audit trail of what happened as we're processing Pete Jansen's and Joe Weiss from start to finish. It's still paper. The gold standard is a paper ballot. You're still able to do the same, fill in the ovals like you did when to get into Lane Tech. You put it in the tabulator. That hasn't changed, but it's just part of the kind of modernize our footprint, our operation there.
Well,
Joe?
Cook County, the Cook County has touch screens, if I'm not mistaken, right? Where it's just, they give you a card and it's coded to your precinct with what your ballot is. You slip the card in, and onto the screen comes whoever the races are that you're voting in, because like you said, everybody, Pete's in a different ward than me, so he's going to vote
Sure.
for a different aldermanic candidate than I am, because there are city elections for aldermen here in Lake Forest on primary election day, albeit they're all uncontested. But nonetheless, Pete's going to have a different ballot than me.
Right. So we have those too, and those machines are called express votes, and they're at every site, and they were designed primarily for to be in compliance with ADA, American with Disabilities Act. So those are used primarily for that purpose. If people are hard of hearing, we have the headset. If they're hard of seeing, they have the Braille touchpad that they can, to assist them with it. But also, individuals who have no disabilities can still use them. I don't have, I think there's been a lot of, when it comes to elections, there's been a lot of concern over touchscreens, because even those machines, once you're done, it prints a summary of what you voted for. So even if let's say you left half of your ballot blank, the only thing that will print is who you voted for. So there's been questions about voter intent in a recount process. It's just been very fascinating, but just maybe too much detail.
Well, I remember the Chads and the punch cards and
Yeah,
Yeah.
Joe. Anthony opened up the door on this one. Okay.
Uh-oh.
For the conspiracy theorists out there, okay,
Sure.
what is going on where like it's election night and then all of a sudden a bunch of votes come in and people say, oh, well, they just had these in the back room. Sitting at the bar, there would have to be so many people involved in this thing that somebody would want to make money exposing it. Okay. So I don't believe it. But what you've been in it like 14 months now. Now you know a little bit what's going on. Why is that not possible? Can it be possible? And what would there's a long list here, so you can pick and choose whatever politically correct answer you want to give. Somebody says, my flashcard, the download of my votes. I've heard somebody say that. I'm not going to say who said it.
The former congressional candidate.
Yeah. What is going on behind the scenes so we can put this stuff to rest? Because there's so much wasted energy on this crap, Anthony.
There's so much wasted energy on this. I think you're right, Pete. I think there would have to be at every single level concerted effort to do something to overturn an election or to do voter fraud. Find me 2 people or 3 people or 5 people that can agree on the same thing. I think it's really hard, right? But when people say that is, look, there's checks and balances. We, Lake County, most of Illinois, still on the paper ballot. If there's a question about the results, we can account for the ballots. We can review the outcome, and we actually do after every election. The State Board of Election gives us, we do a sampling essentially to make sure that the results that were published online correspond with the retabulation process that we do in that sample. So there's these checks and balances, even for vote by mail processing. In our new vote by mail processing center, we have cameras that video record the activities in that room. We have, there's that chain of custody. It's not just one person in there. You have teams of people there. Again, you have, even when we pick up the vote by mail ballots from the drop boxes, we don't send one person. We send 2 people for that, again, that 2-person integrity of the ballots. So there's, we have all these checks and balances that can withstand scrutiny. And I think that's what we're seeing is the checks and balances are working. And when their argument is deflated, they pivot to something else completely, right?
Yeah.
It's almost like they're going argument to argument because nothing is sticking.
Yeah.
I think, Anthony, where the rub comes to a lot of people is for years, we knew who won on election night.
Yeah.
And now we've had scenarios where on election night, someone's winning. And then 2, 3, 4, 5 days later, oh no, they lost. And it's even become like a meme after the Super Bowl. Like the team that lost the next morning is declared the winner of the Super Bowl. Is there a way, and I get it, that more people are voting by mail, and you have to count those things, but I understand the mail ballots can be postmarked on election day and still be counted, but most of them do come before that. Is there a way maybe you guys can start, and maybe this involves a legislative change, but you guys can start counting these ballots as they come in? So on election night, we may not know 100% of the votes because, like I just said, ballots still can be postmarked up to election day.
Mm-hmm.
But we'd have a pretty good idea. So we'd eliminate a lot of these surprises where one candidate is winning on election night and 2 or 3 days later, somebody else is winning, which then lends to these conspiracy theories.
Yeah, that's a really great question. Look, I think part of that is the election office not having adequate equipment to handle the larger volume of vote by mail. For example, that was a manual process in our office before our new equipment came into play a few years ago, which meant that there was no way they could handle the influx of vote by mail ballots and have something ready to go on election night to post some results. Now we have a machinery that helps automate a lot of our processes. So now one of the first results that we release on election night is vote by mail totals that we have up to that point.
But it's just the totals. It's not who voted for who, though, right?
No, it is. It is.
Oh, it
It
is.
is.
Hey, candidate A
Mhm.
got 5,328 votes, and candidate B got.
Correct.
So you will know that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, with our new vote by mail processing center, we're able to do that because again, now we're not talking about having scores of people, of election judges going through a very manual process. The machinery helps that, which means it can be a lot more efficient, which means now we can actually have vote by mail results ready to go after polls close. So for in April of 2023, the municipal election, I believe it was, we posted vote by mail results up to that Monday, since so up to that Monday, the day before, I think at 7:30 p.m. and by 7:45, we uploaded the early voting results, in-person early voting. So that right there gives you about 56% of the people who actually came out to vote. And then after all of that, the election night results come in. So I do think it's the responsibility of whoever's in charge of elections to have the equipment to be able to process large volumes of vote by mail for partly for this reason, but also just to be efficient. And two, I think how the office communicates to the press and to the public, and it's something that we've been doing, is this is what the results contain. And this is the expectation of, hey, 7:30 on election night, we'll release the results of what we have, whether it's in-person early voting or vote by mail. But then after election night, hey, we're about to hit another update of vote by mail ballots that came back on election day, or maybe arrived the day after the election day. But as long as they're postmarked by election day, I think that's a communications issue. I don't believe a lot of election authorities have generally a good communications arm, and that's something that I think we really need to be better at. Something I know that I've been trying to be a lot more transparent about with our local press and even on our social media is one more point. Like for example, the last municipal election was the first time we released numbers as to how many people were voting at each early voting location on our social media. And it became a contest within different communities, something that was completely unintended. They were sharing it. They're like, hey,
suck.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, like, or you can't let Lake Forest beat us. Let's come out and vote at our township early voting location because we know we have more people than they do. Whatever it spurred this like community competition, but it also showed people like, oh man, a lot of people do vote early.
Does it show red and blue too?
No.
Show the results before
that would really get
no,
people.
That would be
no.
Well, that's the rub is a lot of people think that the county clerk knows who's winning, and again, conspiracy theories out there. Then the county clerk goes and tells the candidate, if it's in his party or her party, hey, you're down by 400 votes.
You remember the first time
400 more votes.
The first time Anthony was on the show, he didn't know nothing. They didn't tell him anything. You had to figure out where the votes are going to go. He's going to fix an election?
Well, that's why I always say you're giving people too much credibility if you think they're fixing elections. But
well, we're going to get flamed. Anthony, you were worried about this coming on? We're going to the ones who are going to get crushed after this one.
Well, I don't think I'm ever going to get a postal delivery at my house again.
Can I, Anthony, if you could get somebody from your office just to do a quick video of, hey, here's the process, and I can put it on as in the background when you're talking about this, I think it'll help because, look, you got to set the right expectations or people going to bitch. Look, here's what it is. It's a signature problem. We're letting you know now. Mail in, do your vote, stop your complaining, and then we'll end it right there.
Yeah, absolutely. We're also
Anthony, how do you think I'm sorry, go ahead.
I said we're also going to do a few videos that are in development right now too on our vote by mail process as well. So that once we release those, I'll send them your way, Pete. So you can review.
Perfect.
Anthony, I'm going to get real nuts and bolts here with you, and Pete's going to like cringe at this. But so virtually everything on the primary ballot is uncontested. Okay. Nikki Haley dropped out of the presidential race.
Rest in peace.
So,
Moment of silence.
you and I are both delegates. You're going to the convention. I'm not. Delegate candidates. You're going to be a delegate unless something happens to Joe Biden. But the turnout's going to be pretty low because there may be some. I know in Lake Forest there's nothing contested. Like I said, there's aldermanic elections here that are nonpartisan. So you could actually technically take a nonpartisan ballot just to vote in that aldermanic election, but they're all uncontested. So voter interest is probably going to be relatively low in most primaries. I'm sure somewhere else in the county you're going to tell me there's something contested, but turnout's going to be pretty low. And we're seeing in the other states, even when the primary was contested, before the turnout was low. So you have a relatively low amount of people picking their party's nominees, which lends itself to the whole 70% of the American people want two different candidates than what we're getting. But tell me why we should vote in these elections besides presidential generals, because everybody and their uncle comes out for president, but nobody comes out for anything else. Tell me, as the clerk, as an elected official, as a candidate, why we should vote in these elections.
The greater the impact, the greater impact that anyone can have on your daily life are these local elections, whether it's county board, state legislative races. And you're right, Joe. There's only one county board district that is contested on the Democratic side. One county board district. That's County Board District 8 in Waukegan and Beach Park. No other race other than the race for presidents on either side are contested. So the people that are going to come out and vote are people that are your political wonks, your people that believe that that's their duty regardless of who's on the ballot. And usually there's been studies that usually 80% of the people that come out to vote in a primary are definitely going to vote in the general. So that can also be a good metric as to who will come out in the fall. But these local races is where, in Illinois, you can either pull a Dem ballot or our ballot. You're nominating people to go up against the other candidate in the fall. So whether you pull a D or your R, you're choosing your party's candidates. And if you're a strong D or strong R, you want candidates, one, that have a fighting chance, but two, reflect your values. And this is why voting primaries are important. Look, 4 years ago, COVID, it was a few weeks after I think the state shut down, right around when the state shut down, we had 23% voter turnout in the primary. 4 years before that, in 2016, I believe it was over 30%. So there's a big swing. I don't know that we will reach 20% in this primary election. You don't have a lot of contested races.
Do the Lake County Democrats elect their county party chairman the same way the Republicans do, where it's the weighted vote of each precinct committeeman?
There has to be a convention. The precinct committee people have to go and cast their ballots. I believe it's weighted. Yes, I believe.
And so. I don't know if there's a contested race for Lake County Democratic chairperson. I think Lauren Beth Gash is probably running. I'm assuming as she's running again, and I don't think anybody's challenging her, but
not to my knowledge, right?
There is a contested one for Lake County Republican chairman between Keith Brin and Ted Livengood, and so
it doesn't matter.
Well, but it does matter in that your votes for precinct committee person in your precinct, even though that precinct committee person is probably running uncontested.
Guys, let's get real. We're in Illinois. It doesn't matter. You can wear all the lapel pins you want.
But see, right. This is why you're at the bar and Anthony and I are wearing jackets with lapel pins.
You're in the business. I get it. Okay. All right.
He does it more than me now.
All right. Since we're at the bar, guys, we're in the last quarter of the show. Anthony, thanks for coming on.
Anytime.
You're a cool dude. And anybody that I tell that's conservative that you're a cool dude, they'll tell me something like, well, he can be cool because I forget what the phrase is. You don't vote on anything. Like you and Holly Kim, you guys are very cool. You're my favorite Dems, but you're in positions where you don't vote on anything. I think that's
legislative issues, right?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, legislative. So you can say stuff like this, and I think that's crap. But then I really do. This show really does try to see the other side of things because it's just a smart thing to do. That means more people will tune in and watch because you're not biased, either way. You have your values, okay? My number one value is don't be a D-bag, okay? There's no non-D-bag party, okay? So I'm going to bring this up. I need help talking to Congressman Schneider, even though I saw him at the Northwestern basketball game, and I know he was pissed.
Can I give you a hug? Come on, let me give you a hug. Dan Schneider, how you feel? How do you think the game's going to go, Congressman?
Playing well. We got to get this win.
All right, see you on the Lake Forest podcast. All right.
Made better ticks than he did, but we've been trying to get him on the show like forever to talk about things, okay? Because rumors behind the scenes is that Dick Durbin's going to retire. He's going to move up, blah, blah, blah. But I do want to understand in Illinois, and I'm getting on a touchy subject that has nothing to do with you, but a couple things that I'm trying to understand, because I think once people understand things, they kind of let go and put their energies on something better well spent, okay? The first thing is, I don't know if you can knock on Eric Rinehart's door and say, hey, Big Pete's been trying to get a hold of you, and he will give you a fair shake, okay? He has a question about this, what's the law? Safety Act, okay? I don't understand why that was put. There's two counties in Illinois, Cook and Lake. Why is it that there's only the two counties? What is the reasoning behind it? The second thing I need help with understanding, if you just pass it along, I know this is a big dump truck stuff, but this immigration thing that has nothing to do with you, Anthony, but the way it's getting dumped in Chicago in election year, I don't understand the federal, because the perception that I have that I'm trying to hone down on, let's start with Congressman Schneider, and then I'll get to Eric Rinehart next is, to me, what it looks like is we have local municipalities dealing with federal issues, and they're not set up to do that, okay? Did I word that the right way, Joe?
Well, immigration is a federal issue that has suddenly been thrown into the laps of state and local government.
So that's okay. So Congressman Schneider, okay, I know you're pissed about Iowa beating Northwestern at the game on Billy McKinney night. I'm so sorry about that. We were arm in arm, having a little chat, but I'm trying to get him on. Getting back to Lake County now, with Eric Rinehart, and you came from the sheriff's office, Anthony. Mm-hmm. What was going on with the legislature that this thing got passed? What was the thinking? What I've heard from the bar is, well, we don't want debtor prisons. We don't want people that can't afford, bail. What, back in your time in the sheriff's office, what did you see that was going on that led up to this? How did it build up to this Safety Act? And why is it a good thing or bad? Okay. Have fun.
Pete, you really know how to tee things up. Look, I think the Safety Act, the initial proposal, I think went too far. I mean, the first proposal completely eliminated qualified immunity across the board for law enforcement, which is a whole different component. And so I think rightfully so, there was a lot of conversations between the Sheriff's Association, the Illinois Association of Chiefs of Police, and then your individual law enforcement leaders, elected leaders, talking to the legislature that, hey, like this goes too far. Generally, there were certain good things in the Safety Act, in my personal opinion, again.
Yeah.
One, for example, a provision is that if you're running for sheriff, you should be a law enforcement officer, right? That wasn't a requirement before for sheriffs.
That's a no-brainer.
Right. It did increase training requirements for law enforcement when it comes to dealing with mental health issues, which has been an increasing issue in Illinois and across the country for many years.
Mhm.
The biggest controversial piece that I think that everybody's talking about is eliminating cash bail. Um, I have seen in my time at the sheriff's office people held in jail and they were stuck there because they couldn't afford to pay their bond. Whereas people who had the financial means were able to walk away relatively quickly because they were able to meet that requirement. So I think this is a philosophical issue of how should our criminal justice react? How can we hold people accountable? And I don't think cash bail is the answer. I don't believe that not having cash bail is the answer. There has to be. I think there. I think we can. I think more common for most people. I think there is a middle ground, and there was all these studies in where eliminating cash bail in other states were botched. Let's just say that. Let's admit that
Yeah.
some maybe things were not implemented correctly in other areas. But that also means it gives Illinois, an example of what not to do. And so I do think there are merits to that discussion. I honestly wish there were more there was more deliberative discussion in Springfield about this, because when the proposal came out, I mean, it moved fast. I remember I got a draft proposal um, over the weekend, and they were going to vote on it relatively quickly. I mean, and it was an immensely large piece of legislation. I mean, you had different changes in every single facet of law enforcement, pretty much. And you had to dilute that as somebody that was at the sheriff's office. I'm not just looking at what the law, the
Yeah.
proposal says. I'm trying to figure out what's going to be the impact to to actually implementing this. Our training costs are going to go up. Where's that money going to come from? Does that mean we're going to have to ask the county board for more money? Does that mean LETSB, the Illinois Law Enforcement Training and Standards Board, are they going to give us more money? And by the way, they're understaffed right now. They can barely do what they're supposed to be doing now, and now they have increased mandate. That's not fair to them either.
Mhm.
And so it did move very, very quickly. Now, again, I'm not an expert. I'm not a prosecutor.
That's why you're on this
But
podcast.
which is, you know
Join the
what,
non-experts. Continue.
and this is where I'm more comfortable at, right? Just
Okay.
having a relaxed environment.
Yeah.
But I do think, I think most people can agree that certain crimes should be detainable whether you can pay your way out or not.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's,
Um, and so I think that there can be, more, we're about, I forget how long it's been now, since September when it went into
yeah.
effect, after the legal battles.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting to see where we are at the end of the year or even a year and a half from now to see what the effects are. Because I do believe, one, that a lot of people that were in jail, at least the Lake County jail in pretrial, probably didn't need to be there because they needed added help somewhere else, whether it's a mental health facility or a substance use recovery facility. Um, or that, there were nonviolent offenders, and yet I would see violent offenders walk away because they were able to postpone. Those people should be in jail.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're a violent offender, you should not be able to be free as you are, as your case is going through the court system.
Anthony, you're first generation, so am I. You know, Ellis Island, church had to sponsor my dad's family, and there's one way to come in. Explain to me, is it part of the Safety Act or something else where, because you're a sheriff and I'm asking you, you can't ask somebody's, are you from this country? What is the reasoning behind that? Joe, is that part of the Safety Act, or what is that problem that
I
I
think
believe
that was a separate bill. That was the
it's,
Trust Act.
Trust. There you go. Okay.
that Governor Rauner, a Republican,
Yeah.
signed and was actually supported by the then Republican Lake County Sheriff Mark Curran. But a lot of other Republicans
Yeah, it's
did
not
not.
it's
It's
not
part
an
of Rauner's
R or D
downfall in the
thing. You're
Republican
just trying to
primary.
look, we do a lot of dumb things. Look, it's all about the greater good. So in order to pass something through, you got to put crap in it. I get it's politics. It's why I'm not in it. It's why I do a podcast. But being a sheriff, I would be pissed off if I couldn't ask that question. You got any thoughts, Anthony?
So my thoughts on that is there are other ways to find out, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to, ask. Now, again, I was an administrator there. I was in active in enforcing the law. But from that perspective, from the Trust Act, it was meant as a way to ensure that state and local law enforcement are not immigration experts. They're not immigration officers. There's a lot of federal law that governs immigration. And so what you had were instances in other parts of the country where local law enforcement were taking that role, and they were doing it. Their biases, personal biases, and discriminatory practices were being, came to light. So the Trust Act was meant as a way to ensure that, hey, state and local law enforcement focus on state and local laws. This is not the purview of local law enforcement. But it was also meant to create trust within the immigrant communities, because more often than not, people who are undocumented, who are victims of crime, and they can be at a higher rate, they can be victims of crime at a higher rate, would usually not cooperate with local law enforcement out of fear that their involvement or their participation would result in them being deported. So that is, and I think one of the reasons, then Sheriff Curran supported it was because, that leads to human and drug trafficking issues, other rates of violent crime that's not being reported, or, you don't have witnesses that want to cooperate when the community knows who did what. And so I think, again, as somebody that grew up with immigrant parents, there was a period of time where both of my parents were very fearful of local police.
West Side.
Southwest,
South,
what was that?
Southwest. I was West Side. You were
Southwest. I was
Southwest
Southwest. I was on the
Pulaski and
Southwest side.
Armitage. You were farther.
I was Pulaski and Archer.
Oh God.
Yeah. So, I do think from that experience, I can definitely see the community at large being fearful. And we have great officers in Lake County, by the way.
They're all great.
They're
Look,
fantastic.
There's D-bags everywhere, but for the most part, the people that have the guts to go out and do the stuff that I don't want to do, I respect. First responders,
absolutely.
Big pals, okay?
And all of them,
yeah.
But all of them would step up to save a person's life, right? And so what we saw in Mundelein, for example, like they created the Latino Police Academy, the sheriff had a Spanish speaking. Again, all of that is meant to breed trust and confidence that they can work together, and they don't have to have a divisive us versus them a mentality. And so I think we're seeing. Actually, on this topic in Texas, there was a new law that did allow empowered local law enforcement to take on a immigration enforcement role. And sure enough, immediately they were arresting U.S. citizens, people that were born in the United States, but were predominantly Latino. And so now I believe there's a whole litigation component. So my philosophy is, if you're going to empower law enforcement to do something, they need to be trained, one. And two, is this even within the scope of state and local law?
Well, I think I think the Trust Act did get support of a lot of law enforcement officers like Sheriff Curran, and that's why a Republican governor signed it into law, Bruce Rauner. But the Safety Act, I'm sure there's an exception out there somewhere, but I don't know a single police officer that likes the Safety Act. We've talked to a lot of the Lake Forest police off the record, and they call it the Unsafety Act.
What copper would like it?
So I think there's a divide there.
Yeah.
And I don't know how you bridge that other than, but you're right. I think it is wrong that a rich person can get out of jail and a poor person can if they committed the exact same crime. And we think of the stereotype of a rich person being, somebody from the east side of Lake Forest or something, but it could be a drug dealer who's got access to a lot of cash, right? I mean, it can be a very dangerous person. So the idea of being able to buy your way out of jail, I think, was a bad thing. But I think a lot of cops feel that we threw the baby out with the bathwater, and now there are dangerous people out on the street that are then committing worse crimes. So yeah, obviously, if you commit a murder, you're going to be detained, but you may have committed a crime beforehand that previously was detainable, but no longer is. And now that you're back on the street, you commit murder or attempted murder or some violent crime. And I think that's where the rub is with the Safety Act with a lot of police officers that I know.
Yeah, I know it definitely has, again, those arguments do have merit. And I think, is where do we go from here? Is there another legislative fix, if you will, to rectify a lot of the unintended consequences? It's part of the legislative process, but hey,
Anthony, would you knock on Eric's door and say, come on, we'll give him
have a nice chat. We're always nice to all our guests, except for one former congressional candidate, but that was...
Anybody, look, the people that I give the most crap to are the ones that don't come on. And if they don't want to come on, look, we got a big enough platform now that people are listening and watching. So it's not, oh, you're too small. It's you're hiding something. You're not, you got guts, man, to answer those questions. I mean,
you've been great, Anthony.
I'd vote for you. I'd vote for you, man. Well, and Holly too. We got to get her butt back on here, and we got to talk about the tax. Would you knock on her door too?
She's actually in Springfield today, but you know what? You should have her on because tax bills will start going out sometime.
Well, I'm sure she'll gladly come on to make sure people know that she's
some pissed off Lake Forest
the tax rates.
But I'll let Eric know. Yes,
and then of course Congressman Schneider as well. Say Big Pete says hello next time you see him, and we'd like to have him on the show. Anthony Vega, what's your URL? When are you coming up for vote again? You've only been there 14 months, but
2026.
2026. Okay. All right. You know where to get time from. And then to learn more about the elections, where do we send people?
You can go to lakevoterpower.info for your voter-specific voting information.
Anthony Vince Vega, one of our favorite Democrat buddies.
I think the next time we have you on, we're going to do it live from one of the bars here in Lake Forest.
You know what?
Lantern.
Or 28 Mile. I love 28 Mile. And Pete, you're a big fan, so I would love to do
Ravinia Brewing Company. We won't tell your friend Nancy Rotering we did it at Ravinia Brewing Company.
Yeah, don't. I don't want
your fellow Biden delegate from the 10th Congressional District.
Well, if you see Nancy, tell her Big Pete says hello. Anthony Vega, thank you, man. You got
Thanks, Anthony. You're awesome, man.
Bye-bye.
All right, anytime. Be safe, all right?
All right. Looking for the best pool supplies? Look no further than Dohany's Pool Supplies. With a history dating back to 1967, this family-owned business offers everything families need to keep their pools clean and sparkling, from chemicals to equipment. Plus, customers enjoy free shipping on all orders. Visit Dohany's Pool Supplies today at doheny.com, DOHENY.com, to learn more. Broker Michelle Parno has lived and worked in Lake Forest for over 2 decades. Michelle's lending experience, when combined with her real estate expertise, makes her an invaluable asset to her clients as they navigate their home buying or selling process. Call Michelle now at 847-528-8721, 847-528-8721. For the best cannabis in the world, look no further than Iliad Epic Grow. Owned by Lake Bluff's own Rich Ruzich, they are a cannabis cultivation center focusing on hard-to-find small batch products that will delight both the occasional user and ganjier. When visiting Michigan, ask for it by name. Epic Products, exceptional process. For more information, email info@iliadgrow.com. Laracy & Company CPAs, founded in 2010 by Lake Forest's own Brian Laracy, specializes in tax preparation and bookkeeping services. Earning the People Love Us on Yelp award, their process is straightforward. Just upload, review, and file. For a free quote, visit laracycpa.com now. That's LARISEYCPA.com. I'm excited to share with you something special from our Lake Forest community, the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa, located at 775 North Bank Lane in Lake Forest near Wisconsin Avenue. This just isn't any spa. They offer an amazing blend of traditional spa services plus the added benefit of medical procedures and treatments. In a relaxing and luxurious spa environment, you can enjoy a range of cosmetic and aesthetic treatments. These are all performed under the supervision of top medical professionals. The Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa provides skin care, facial rejuvenation, body contouring, laser hair removal, Botox, dermal fillers, chemical peels, and much more. What's great is that each treatment is tailored not just to enhance your appearance, but also to address specific skin concerns and to promote overall well-being. So if you're looking to pamper yourself and take your beauty routine to the next level, give the Aesthetic Lounge Med Spa a call at 224-768-8028 or visit them at their location on North Bank Lane. It's an experience your skin will thank you for. We'd also like to say we're thankful for our Patreon supporters, Otto, John C., Helen, Herrick, and J.M.